There we go. Welcome back to an live episode of Stacking Dennys this week. I'm Jordan McAbee of RotoBaller. My co-host Nick Giffen of the Action Network. Chris Buescher in Victory Lane finally gets a win on the road course in a race that I think may go down as one of the most important in this year's playoffs. We only had 2 playoff drivers finish inside the top 10 at the end of this thing. Obviously, Buescher, not a playoff driver, gets the win. Nick, I know you had him bet outright. We were both all over him. Top 10 finishes, top 10 bets for him this past weekend. And just to note on that a little bit, I'm very sad because I don't think we're ever going to get good top 10 lines on Buescher at a road course ever again. Now that the secret's out that he's really good at them. I know you and I both had him at 3-1. He opened at plus 240. Just some ridiculous lines out there this past weekend for him getting top 10. But him versus SVG in a great little last lap battle. Thought SVG was going to get it. He missed his corner. Buescher took advantage. I thought SVG was going to get back up there and wreck Buescher for the win. I was waiting for it just because I knew I had so much money on Buescher to finish top 10. But he didn't. Kind of missed his corner and got loose there. Wasn't able to get back to him. Carson Hocevar comes home third. Ross Chastain, one of the best cars all day, started on the pole. He came home fourth. Zane Smith, fifth. Corey LaJoie finished eighth. All 3 Spire cars finished inside the top 10. Nick, we talked a couple weeks ago that this first round of the playoffs could get a little wonky, and it's definitely delivering that so far. Denny Hamlin's below the cut line now after his very questionable strategy at Atlanta and a first lap wreck at Watkins Glen. Corey LaJoie getting in, taking out what ended up taking out Ryan Blaney. Kyle Busch got spun. Hamlin got damaged. Just overall a wild Watkins Glen race as we expected. Tire wear came into play. Maybe not as much, though, as we kind of thought it would. But what do you think of that race overall?
Yeah, kind of. Aside from the potential of not flipping the stages being the optimal strategy, it looked like flipping the stages still was. Kind of as we expected. There was tire wear. I mean, we saw 3 seconds almost of fall off in practice. And definitely in the race, we saw a little bit less, but it was still fall off. We saw Chris Buescher pass older tire guys with ease when he was on newer tires. And he blew by him. And so it wasn't really close. Yeah, I mean, tires definitely mattered. It's just we didn't really get people on different enough strategies until kind of the end of the race that we didn't see it become a huge effect. But the drivers I thought would did well. The smoother drivers, Chris Buescher's, Michael McDowell's, guys who struggled, who I tend to think of as a little more aggressive. Kyle Larson, Tyler Reddick struggled. He only finished fourth, or only got 4 stage points, and that was by staying out. And he finished behind a whole bunch of other cars. So some of these more aggressive type drivers, other than maybe Ross Chastain, just struggled a little more. And the smooth drivers did really well. Your Alex Bowman was doing really well until he got shuffled back because of the strategy stuff. Daniel Suarez was doing really well until he had an off-track excursion. Chase Elliott, Austin Cindric, those smoother drivers all finished ahead of Tyler Reddick and Kyle Larson in stage 1 when they all stayed out. So that means they were all just better than him in that first stage, and Larson. So, one of those things that I thought would happen did end up happening. And then just the whole shakeup in strategy allowed, crazy Carson Hocevar to finish third. He definitely didn't have anywhere near a third best car on the day. And in fact, he kind of looked like he was struggling down in the mid 20s for a lot of that race, but that's what strategy does. And it worked out for some of these guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you mentioned like there was tire fall off, but it was still is incredibly difficult to pass, which we've seen at these road courses this year. So that didn't change, even though I think we made progress with the tire fall off. So I think they're on the right direction to getting these road courses back. But once again, the biggest thing here, one is 2 big things here. When you have a playoff race that is not a restrictor or a super speedway race or something that's unpredictable, and you have guys like Carson Hocevar, Zane Smith, not Michael McDowell, but Corey LaJoie, Ryan Preece, all finishing inside the top 10, like that this is just a special race. And we've now had 2 in a row because we had Atlanta, which, was the super speedway, Watkins Glen. I am baffled that people are now looking at this, and we're going into Bristol, that anything can happen. Any big name driver right now, not named Joey Logano, could miss out on making the next round. Now, obviously, Christopher Bell's in a really good position. Austin Cindric's in a really good position. Alex Bowman's in a really good position. But we've seen the best drivers at Bristol have issues before. And there's the possibility of that happening again. So I seen quite a few tweets earlier this week that basically said, like, I can't believe that this first round is this crazy. I think just looking at the schedule, when this schedule dropped, this was the biggest wild card, and this had the biggest potential to take out some of these big drivers. And we're seeing that, especially, with the Denny Hamlin after his penalties. So, overall, I thought it was, admittedly, I didn't get to fully watch the race. I didn't get to pay full attention. But I think it accomplished what NASCAR wanted this first round to do for sure. We're heading into Bristol with just an insane amount of pressure on Denny Hamlin. I know Chris Gabehart, after the race, I listened to their in-race or their in-car chatter, and they were basically saying, like, Hamlin and the team being able to recover for, I think they finished 23rd, was a championship level effort for them. Look, we still got to talk about your guys' strategy at Atlanta, because now you are not in a good position heading into Bristol, but they're definitely confident. Denny Hamlin won there earlier this year. He won last year as well. But yeah, overall, I think it was a crazy Watkins Glen race. That wasn't overly surprising. But as far as the racing itself and as far as it all came down, I tend to agree with some of the others. Overall, I think that the actual racing during the race was kind of mediocre, kind of like what we've come to expect at road courses. But that was a great finish, and it was a great call once again by Lee Diffie. He nailed it, just absolutely, like, amazing. So yes, I think the Jeff Gluck's poll was definitely inflated as far as the number of people voting yes on it, but that was a great finish. Just a great battle, and it was a great example. I know I tweeted this the other day. It was a great example of 2 drivers that this is what we want, or this is what's acceptable with last lap contact and last lap racing, as opposed to what Richard Childress thinks is acceptable with Austin Dillon and how he handled Richmond. Yeah. So if people and this isn't just like drivers and owners I'm talking like fans. If you don't see the differences between Watkins Glen and Richmond and how those 2 endings shook out, I have nothing for you, because that is just the complete opposite, and one that is acceptable and one that's not.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, we already heard Kyle Busch even shoot it down. He wasn't going to dump Chase Briscoe. He was going to try to pass him and, as clean as possible and win the race. And that's Kyle Busch, who's been known for crazy aggression over the years. Oh, yeah. He had every opportunity. He got within a couple tenths of Chase Briscoe. He had every opportunity to just hold his foot to the floor and to wipe him out if he wanted to, but he didn't. So, going into a corner and just not using the brakes and just wiping him out. He had that opportunity a couple times in a couple corners and chose not to do it. And, he tried to pass him the right way and didn't get it done. And Buescher and SVG here, they did it the right way. Yeah, there was contact, but that's what you got to do. You move them and you try to get underneath them, as Buescher did, and a totally fair game right there. Not just straight up wipe the guy out. Give him a chance to get you back, right? And that's what Buescher did. He gave him a chance to get him back, and SVG couldn't get him back, and Buescher won the race.
As we touched on a little bit, big name drivers with issues in this race right off the bat. Ryan Blaney didn't even make a full lap, finished dead last. They got towed back after that first lap wreck. AJ Allmendinger, we touched on him on the episode last week, basically said, hey, we don't trust this guy's equipment in this 13 car. He had transmission issues, ended up finishing 36th, 6 laps into the race. William Byron, another playoff driver with major issues, he finished 34th.
36 pick.
Yeah.
I had to go different, and it didn't work out.
Yeah, neither of us did very well. I had Chase Elliott, obviously finished 19th. That's not what I want on a road course, but yeah, that was I will. Little spoiler alert. I think this might be the week that you can gain some major points on me.
I know you're going. I know who you're going with. I know.
Who am I going with?
John Hunter Nemechek.
Absolutely. Yeah. We'll get to that. We'll get to that reasoning later. But Reddick and Keselowski, Harrison Burton, Denny Hamlin, Ty Gibbs, Truex, Chase Elliott, Alex Bowman all finished 18th or worse. So we had a bunch of playoff drivers not finish well, but there was enough of them where it still keeps the points tight, which, we're going to get to that when we talk about the playoff standings here. One stat that I saw, this was the first playoff race since the playoffs were introduced that a playoff driver did not finish second or better. Like the worst finish, which I think is amazing. Absolutely amazing. It doesn't surprise me, but it's amazing. But it's also the fact that we didn't even have any playoff drivers in the top 5.
Yeah, just incredible race for the playoffs. And, we have 6 drivers that are either on the outside looking in or within 6 points of being on the outside looking in here. And, if you're a guy like Austin Cindric, you finish 10th and 10th, and you're sitting there second in the point standings. I mean, it's incredible. If we don't count Joey Logano's win, right? If we just look at raw points, Austin Cindric is second in the points just by finishing 10th and 10th and picking up some stage points at both Atlanta and the Glen, which makes you question Denny Hamlin's Atlanta strategy even more, right? Like pick up some stage points, try to get a 15th place finish instead of riding around. And you'd be in much better shape. And he's incredibly lucky that they finished 23rd, that there was enough chaos for him to pass several cars at the end with a broken ass car. He's said kudos to his team. Great job. They did a great job. They kept him in the race and they benefited from some more chaos at the end there. We saw a couple big wrecks and Hamlin was able to pass a bunch of cars in those final couple restarts there. So absolutely good job to them. Hamlin's lucky he's not 15, 20 points out instead of just 6 points out.
Yeah, and I think that's gonna get us right here into good talking about the playoffs here. Here's the thing: we have one final race in this first round before this 16 driver playoff field gets cut down to 12. Harrison Burton is only 20 points below the cut line. He's not out of this. Mm-hmm. Harrison, if there's chaos at Bristol, Harrison Burton can still advance to the round of 12, which is like if there was one guy, you could have gave me like minus 10,000 odds, and I'd be like, that's a sure thing. Like, I did not think Harrison Burton, he's definitely not making any further rounds, but this is just shows how crazy this first round is. But like you said, we got 6 drivers within 6 points or within the cut line here, close to the cut line. Chase Briscoe's 6 above. Ty Gibbs is also 6 above. Hamlin right now is 6 below. Keselowski's 12 below. Truex is 14 below, and Harrison Burton is 20 below. The guys that are sitting the best, obviously Joey Logano has to be breathing the biggest sigh of relief for getting that win at Atlanta because he's advanced no matter what. Christopher Bell's plus 46, Austin Cindric's plus 43, Bowman plus 41. I feel like those guys are pretty good. Suarez plus 36, they have to be feeling pretty good. Now's where it gets a little hairy. Not hairy, but you start you can't screw up. Tyler Reddick's plus 30, Chase Elliott's plus 30. Ryan Blaney, who has a history of having major issues at Bristol, is only plus 29. Kyle Larson, who has been prone to making mistakes this year, especially, plus 26. William Byron plus 25. Obviously, Hamlin, the heavy favorite to win this race. They've had this race circled all year. They said over their radio, they're coming into our house. They basically said we're gonna win this damn thing. I do not disagree that Hamlin is the guy to beat, and unless something major changes in practice and qualifying, and they just come out with no speed, yes, I agree. Hamlin's the guy to beat this week. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean that he's going to win. This is a 500-lap race at Bristol Motor Speedway. Shit happens in these races. Shit happens any week. But right now, who do you think, and we talked about this, who do you think is the most likely? Let's go with the guys that are like Byron and above in the points. Yeah. Who do you think is potentially in the most trouble to not advance out of this first round if Bristol gets a little chaotic?
That's a good question. I think, yeah, honestly, it's any of them. I mean, you have to go with Byron, I guess, just because he's closest to the cut line, because this chaos can affect anybody.
Right.
We don't know who it'll strike. So I'm just going to say Byron only because he's closest to the cut line. It could affect literally anybody. And I mean, obviously, Joey Logano's safe. But other than that, I'm just going to go with the guys closest to the cut line. I'm going to go with William Byron. And then maybe a Kyle Larson. We also know Kyle Larson's known for occasionally pushing it a little too hard. Ryan Blaney's had some bad luck at Bristol in the past. I mean, it could affect any of these guys. So I'm just going to go with the guy closest to the cut line.
And that's the thing is, so the guys that are really good at Bristol, let's start with the guys that aren't so good at Bristol. Austin Cindric is not that good at Bristol, but he has such a points cushion here that he just needs to not have a catastrophic night, and he should be in.
Yeah.
Daniel Suarez does not have the best track record at Bristol. Christopher Bell is really good at Bristol. Alex Bowman has top 10 potential at Bristol. Tyler Reddick has struggled at Bristol. His track record at Bristol is not very good. This last race this year was the first time he's ever even led here. So he's on my list of, if things go a little wild, he doesn't have the standing of Bristol to kind of prop himself up. Chase Elliott, very good at Bristol. Ryan Blaney always has a ton of speed at Bristol, but he also has a lot of issues at Bristol. We just see it time and time again. Now, are those predictable? Are those like saying that he's not good at Bristol? No, but he just runs into a lot of issues here. Kyle Larson, we know that he's great at Bristol, but has the potential to run into issues. And then, like you said, William Byron, probably out of the Chase Elliott's, the Ryan Blaney's, the Larsons, he's the slowest at Bristol, and he's also the closest, as you said, to the actual cut line of those top drivers. So I'm with you. I'm still sticking with for the drama. I kind of want to see Reddick get eliminated, but I'm still sticking with Ryan Blaney. I think I said that at the start of these playoffs that I think he's my big name driver that's going to fall out of this first round. I'm going to stick with that.
He's just really good at Bristol. I can see him collecting stage points before bad things happen, which would really help him. And I think he has more potential for stage points than Byron.
Now flipping the script a little bit, these other guys, Keselowski's really good at Bristol, as is Chris Buescher. They've been super strong here in the next gen era. Truex has shown speed at Bristol. Now, what do you think the chances are of Martin Truex Jr. advancing here? Given his
this, for me, Truex comes down to what happens with the tires. If it's like we saw in the first Bristol race, that's good for him. If it's more like what we've always seen in Bristol, where tires really haven't been a factor, that's not good for him, because he's not been great at Bristol otherwise for the most part. So I think if we look prior to tire issues, he's finished 19th, 36th, 7th, 24th, 20th. Nothing better than like a 7th place finish, 13th, 17th in the era that he's been with Joe Gibbs Racing. Nothing better than 7th. So tires, if the tires are like they were earlier this year, that could help him. But if not, I think he's a guy that is going to potentially have to struggle to overcome the points deficit.
And then, obviously Ty Gibbs led a bunch of laps in the first race at Bristol. We've talked about Denny Hamlin, Brad Keselowski. One guy that I think is getting overlooked a lot, who's actually pretty decent at Bristol, is Chase Briscoe. Now, we just saw him win Darlington, another high tire wear track. Bristol, he has no top 10 finishes here, but 3 of his 4 starts, 14th or better. He has 2 back in 2022, first next gen race here, top 5 in the first 2 stages before ultimately falling back to 14th. You can't even count out Chase Briscoe at this point either. I don't think the doors are wide open for this entire playoff field. And I don't know whether I love that or hate it with it being the first round. Like, I feel like this round should be, this should be the easy round. This should be the one where like the great guys are the ones that's getting through, and like the drama part of me loves this. I want to see Denny Hamlin get eliminated. I want to see Ryan Blaney get eliminated. But as far as the integrity of the championship, I don't know if I like it.
Yeah.
And obviously this is all hypothetical. We don't know what's going to happen this week. We just know that the potential's there for some shit to happen, especially with these tires. And I haven't checked. I assume they're bringing back the same tires.
They are. As far as I'm aware of, they're bringing back the same tires, but they ran the same tires at this race last year, and they didn't have the tire issues. So it begs the question, what was the cause of the tire issues earlier this year? You know, what Denny Hamlin talked about in his podcast, did somebody piss in that batch of the compound mix, or was it weather related? Because Bristol earlier this year was cold. It was 63 for the high, which, you know, typically could be a little warmer in Bristol because they haven't had a spring Bristol race in a while, since they were doing Bristol dirt for the last several years. But you know, Saturday night's forecast is looking right around 64 at green flag. So maybe if it's the weather, then maybe we see a repeat of that. If it was somebody pissing in the tire compound, then maybe we don't see a repeat of that. It's tough to say. I don't know. I don't know what we'll see from the tires here, but as far as I'm aware, it's the same tire codes.
It is. I just double checked that. And like you said, the weather's supposed to be, and that was what everyone was pointing to, was the weather. Like that was potentially causing these issues. So if it's the same, we could see it again. But at the same time, if I remember correctly, back to first Bristol race this year, we weren't, like, even in practice, teams did not realize that the tires were going to be like that. Like they got to the race and they're like, oh shit, we could have a problem here, because this was the race that Goodyear added tires to their allotment, correct? In the race.
During the race, they added an extra
all
set
teams
or
will
two,
get,
I think it was.
Yeah.
And because I don't think we had the super long practice session because they didn't think they needed it, because we always run at Bristol. So we didn't have enough laps on a long run to start to see the cording issues. And it wasn't tire wear where we see, like, you know, it's just a soft compound and it just loses grip. This was like actual, like the tire coming apart type stuff, like cording, and then blowing potentially if it corded too bad. So it's a little different. You still need to manage your tires, but it's not because it's wear. It's because it's a cording, like actual cording of the tire, which requires you to manage your tires. It essentially comes from an issue with loads and pressures and stuff. So, you know, it's more of a physics-based thing around the ability to support the loads rather than the compound just kind of wearing from abrasion.
Yeah. And then there's the aspect of it. All of these unknowns really makes me not want to bet this week. And I don't remember if I tweeted it or not. I know I DM'd it to someone. I was like, my betting card's going to be quite light. It's not going to be very heavy this week. Like I have 2 bets in, and that's just because I saw huge value on both of them. But that's about it. I'm going to sit back. What I am most looking forward to with this race is I have nothing else planned for Saturday night. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to sit my ass down. I'm going to watch Bristol night race. And I'm going to see who gets eliminated. That's what I'm most excited for. I don't care about bets this week. I don't care about anything. I want to watch this race and see how it ends up. But yeah, all these unknowns that we literally have no idea going into this race. This is a great week to step back and not bet as much and not
absolutely.
Yeah. But as far as the overall standings, you got anything else to say about these playoffs heading into Bristol before we, talk about this?
I will say this. If you had as the top 5 in the standings, Joey Logano, Christopher Bell, Austin Cindric, Alex Bowman, and Daniel Suarez, you are the biggest liar I have ever met.
I would have made a path where none of them were in the top 5. Absolutely. That would be much more likely in my mind than where we are now.
Well, and so here's what I want to talk about is look at the next round. Like, I feel pretty confident Bell, Cindric, Logano, probably Bowman and Suarez will be in the next round. Maybe the least likely of those obviously would be Suarez, but Talladega, that sets up great for Austin Cindric, and the Roval, that sets up great for Austin Cindric. We could be talking about Austin Cindric final 8.
Unfortunately, Bet365 took down their odds for
making the round of 8 or
to
something.
make the round of 8. Yeah. But speaking of that, they do have to make the round of 4 to make the final 4. And I'm curious your thoughts on this. Alex Bowman is only minus 1,000 to not make it.
Yeah, I don't know. He's one of those. I could just see him randomly popping off wins at some of these tracks because he's, aside from like Bristol, he has potential to win any of these other races.
That's his MO though, isn't it? He always has the potential to somehow surprise.
Yeah, exactly. He could win Kansas. He could win Vegas. He could win, obviously, Talladega. Anybody could win. He could win the Roval. We've already seen him, win a road course this year. He could win Martinsville. He's already won there. He could win Homestead. I believe he's already won either there, similar high tire wear places to there. I have to go back and look, but no, he hasn't won at Homestead, but he's won at Auto Club. He's won at Chicagoland. He's won, certainly at some high tire wear places. So definitely has the ability to win at Homestead. And so, any race in the round of 8, the round of 12 or the round of 8, I can see him winning to get to the next round. So I don't mind it to not make the final 4, but I also see how he could make the final 4, much more so than I thought I could see how Chase Briscoe would make the playoffs. And Chase Briscoe basically only made the playoffs in a race that he initially went into the week with a 1% chance of winning, according to sports books.
Oh, this is just setting up maybe not the best. I think I can confidently say this is kind of, between all the great finishes and just the wackiness that's gone on the track in the playoffs, this season is, I don't know the best word for it. I just want to use the word fun. That's probably my best word for this.
Yeah.
The playoff drama, whether you like the system or not, the end of the races, all the calls. This has been the most fun season that I have been a part of in a while. Which kudos to NASCAR. kudos to NASCAR, because this is in this next gen car that supposedly everybody that says sucks.
Yeah. I don't know. 2022 was an incredible season. The first year of the next gen, absolutely crazy. But yeah, I mean, for me, it's still, 2011, 2022, and then this year's been great.
Yeah. Let's whine about it. Let's do some whine about it.
Let's do it. I'll let you whine about it since I'm starting the picks.
I'm going to, I really don't have anything, like industry wise or anything. Like I could whine about, our boy, Dave Moody and his stupid ass tweets that I found today. But I'm going to whine about myself, not betting Buescher outright. Like, obviously I was heavily invested in Chris Buescher top 10 this past weekend. Something I was very confident in. And then they opened the 3-1 and I triple down on it. But for some reason, and you and I talked kind of extensively before the race and Saturday night, and we talked about Buescher, talked about what cars are good. Like we know that the Fords are, I would say the Fords are the best at tire wear when it comes to maintaining speed over the long run. We've seen it at Darlington this year. We saw it at Watkins Glen. The Fords were fastest on the long run. Anytime tire wear comes into play, it seems like Fords have that advantage for whatever reason. Potentially because they don't have the super speed without the tire wear, Yeah. But I like, for some reason, and I love Chris Buescher at road courses. He's almost an immediate every single time write up for me DFS, no matter what happened. Like, because he doesn't qualify well, never qualifies well. But he's great there. And I just didn't bet him outright, and I don't know why. And obviously, like looking back, but I just don't know why. And I I'm not irritated because my betting strategy isn't betting outrights. Like I typically don't bet outrights. It's not what I do. But something like that, where like the data showed that Chris Buescher had a great car. He was at, what was he, 33 or 40 to 1 on race day, like something crazy. So yeah, that's my whine about it. Just kind of irritated I didn't bet him. And I'm glad it paid off for so many other people and he was able to get that win, especially like you, the way your betting season has been going. I was very happy to see.
I thought I was going to have another one there when SVG got past Buescher. I literally had a tweet drafted up to be like, again, ... Thought I was losing another one there. But no, I'm glad Buescher pulled through. To me, he 33 to 1 midweek was way too long. And then especially 50 to 1 after. I didn't double dip. I probably should have. But he actually opened 60 to 1 at BetMGM after practice qualifying. Got bet down to 50 relatively quickly. I should have double dipped. I liked him a lot. Like you said, we talked about it. Looking at the practice data, I thought he was really good over the long run. Maybe he wasn't quite as good on the short run. Thought Tyler Reddick was way overrated in practice data. And I actually wrote him up as a fade in my DFS article. I literally said fade him in cash games.
I didn't say that, but I said in tournaments.
Said fade him in cash games, and that worked out well. But yeah, it's just one of those things where I noticed the Toyota struggled on the long run. And what was the highest finishing Toyota? I need to even go look. It was, there were no Toyotas in the top 13. Christopher Bell 14th was the highest finishing Toyota. Obviously Truex won stage 1. He was, he was solid. He started, I think it was second, faded to third by the end of the first stage and looked like he was kind of holding up the line from behind him for third. Bowman was right there trying to get by him. So clearly, Toyota was struggling on the long run. And the only reason Toyota even got stage points was because they were, had guys in the playoffs that were staying out to grab stage points. But definitely Toyota had the long run fall off that was not good there. So very glad I bet Chris Buescher. Glad the bad luck finally turned around a little bit for once. Yeah, it felt pretty good. I had McDowell 16 to 1. I felt great about that as well, considering he was running the top 2 or 3 or leading for a lot of that race. So, yeah, pretty happy with the process this past week. But I definitely understand kicking yourself on not taking the Buescher outright. Looking back, a year or two ago, he was sitting there at 14 to 1 at some of these road course races, especially like Sonoma, where he's been really strong with the tire wear. So yeah, probably I would agree with you. You probably should kick yourself just a little bit, but it's hard. I mean, you're not really an outright better, like you said. So it's not that bad. It's not that bad.
Yeah.
So we'll go on to my whine about it. And I'm going to whine about the IndyCar race and the NASCAR race overlapping for the IndyCar finale.
Oh,
I cannot. Why can both of these series were running on NBC affiliates, whether it's NBC, USA, Peacock type stuff? Why put them head to head against each other when you're on the same network of coverage? Why would you put them head to head against each other? It makes absolutely no sense from an NBC standpoint.
For the finale.
Yeah, from an NBC standpoint, from IndyCar and NASCAR standpoint, they don't want to go to head because it doesn't help either of them. Have one lead into the other, and that's great. If you want, the IndyCar finale might be one of the highest viewed IndyCar races of the season. Have it lead into NASCAR, or if you think the NASCAR race will obviously has more viewers in general, have it lead into IndyCar finale. And that way you get people to stick around and watch both. It just makes absolutely no sense from everybody's perspective. So I don't get it. Pisses me off when I'm trying to watch NASCAR and watch IndyCar at the same time. It's so frustrating. There's nothing I enjoy less than trying to watch both races at the same time.
Yeah, I get that. And it doesn't make any sense. Even if their research has found that there's not a ton of crossover there, there's still some. And like I said, with the finale. By the way, how did IndyCar end up? I didn't even.
It was a little the championship itself was anticlimactic because crazy enough, Will Power's seatbelts came undone. So he had to pit and lost a bunch of laps to get his seatbelts fixed. We saw this with AJ Allmendinger, also a Penske driver in the Indy 500 a handful of years ago when he ran the Indy 500 for Penske. His seatbelts came undone while leading the Indy 500. You can't be going 230 miles an hour with no seatbelts. So he had to bring the car in and pit and lost the Indy 500 that way. But we could be talking about AJ Allmendinger as an Indy 500 winner if he didn't have that bad luck. So
how did he know that the seatbelts were undone?
I don't know. I'm sure you feel it. I'm sure you, you're strapped in tight on those 6 or 5 or 6 point harnesses. I'm sure you know if those seatbelts are coming undone. They also probably have sensors on them, I would guess.
I was going to say there has to be sensors because I wonder how many drivers would be like not say anything if there wasn't sensors, and they just keep going.
And the craziest thing is the only 2 times I've ever heard of this were in 2 of the most important situations ever. An Indy 500 win on the line or a championship on the line. Right? Like, what? That's so crazy. But so the championship was anticlimactic. Kyle Kirkwood dominated the first part of the race, led the most laps in the race. He came in for his first pit stop, and right when he was leaving the pits, yellow. So he got trapped a lap down, got the wave around because everybody else came in and pitted, ended up finishing 4th, but probably had the best car. His teammate Colton Herta probably had the second best car, ended up winning. So great result for Andretti, 1 and 4th, but feel a little hard done for Kyle there because he had an incredible car.
Yeah. So how are we feeling next year for Kirkwood?
Should be even better, man. This team is on the rise. Colton finished 2nd in the point standings, which Andretti hasn't had a top 3 finish in the point standings in 4 or 5 years since I believe Herta and or Rossi did it. So the team is definitely on the rise. Kyle had his best career point standings finish, finished outside the top 10 last year, finished 7th in the points this year, and should just end up getting better. Didn't grab any wins this year, but was glad he grabbed that pole position on an oval, his first career oval pole.
Mm-hmm. Nice. So yeah, that is Wine About It, presented by RotoBaller Winery. As always, make sure you check them out. And the Brew Kettle, make sure you check them out. Before we get to Bristol, there was some breaking news today. Bubba Wallace signs an extension with 2311. Rumored to be, I think, 2 years, maybe 3 years. But he's going to be staying in that 23 car for the time being. Now, the important note here is that his comments, I want to say, like 4 months ago, he said that his contract talks were on hold until 2311 signed the charter agreement. So now that he's resigned, does that mean that 2311 has signed the charter agreement after holding out? Yeah. And that's and obviously this news just broke probably like 2 hours ago. So we don't know all the details yet. But yeah, Bubba is staying at 2311, which I don't think either of us are surprised by that.
No, not surprised by that at all. It's long overdue, I guess, because they're a match made in heaven for each other in terms of 2311 and Bubba. The biggest question is what's going on with the charter for 2311, not signing the charter agreement. So I don't know. Will they race as an open teams next year? I have no idea.
Yeah. Something to keep an eye on. But overall, good for both parties there. But we're on to Bristol. And like I said, I'm excited for this race. Like I get excited pretty much every week for the upcoming race. But my excitement for this week's race is a different level. Like I am purposely not making any. I actually canceled plans that I had Saturday night to watch this race, to make sure that I can watch this race. But three races here in the next gen era on the concrete. As you said, we used to run one race on dirt, one race on concrete. It always used to be the night race in September. That was the race. This is the first year that we got the concrete back. First year in the next gen era. Chris Buescher, somewhat surprisingly, kind of out of nowhere, gets the win, leads 169 laps. Toyota's had a ton of issues in that race. That was when Kyle Busch was still with Joe Gibbs Racing. He had an engine issue. Ty Gibbs, Martin Truex Jr., they had steering issues. They all finished at the end of the field. Bunch of people with issues in that race. Only 12 cars were on the lead lap at the end of that race.
Yeah.
Last year's race, Denny Hamlin gets the win. Leads 142 laps after Christopher Bell led 187 laps from the pole. Ty Gibbs led 102 laps. 3 Joe Gibbs racing cars leading over 100 laps in that race. Let me see here. 10 cars on the lead lap at the end of that race. Now we flash forward to this year. As we said, tire issues came into play. Not tire issues, just a bunch of tire wear that was pretty unexpected for Goodyear and these teams. Denny Hamlin once again in victory lane. Ty Gibbs once again leads a ton of laps, leads 137, leads both stages. I thought he was going to win that race. I was pretty confident that Ty Gibbs was getting his first win in this first Bristol race. He faded at the end bad.
Yep.
Denny Hamlin,
the tire
best,
management.
Yep. Denny Hamlin, the best at managing his tires. Truex finished second, another good driver at managing his tires. Brad Keselowski finished third, another good driver managing his tires. Alex Bowman, fourth, good driver managing his tires. Kyle Larson, fifth, good driver managing his tires. Those were the only cars that finished on the lead lap in this first race at Bristol. My point here, I'm looking for drivers on the lead lap props because in the next gen era, our average is, we got what, 15 plus 12, 27, average of 9. The average is 9 in the next gen era at Bristol. Like I mentioned before, 500 laps around this race or this track is an absolute beast, and it is going to be a wild night. Another thing we saw earlier this year, which we alluded to before. I don't want to get to John Hunter Nemechek yet. I'm going to wait to talk about John Hunter Nemechek specifically until we get to 36 for 36. But Denny Hamlin, the heavy favorite heading into this race weekend. I think some sports books have him like plus 350. I was actually looking at, speaking of like, when you bet Briscoe to not make the playoffs, I'm looking at maybe potentially betting Denny Hamlin to not win this race at Caesars, because they're the only ones that offers yes or no. But rightfully so, Denny Hamlin is the race winner. He also won at Dover earlier this year, which a lot of people kind of use as a comparison track to Bristol. At the end of the day, though, comparable tracks, it's Bristol. If you're good at Bristol, you're good at Bristol. And some of these other ones are just, it's kind of comparable, but it's really not. Dover's twice the size and everything else. But who else is some of your top drivers this week? Sportsbook's pretty consistent, I think, as far as like the big 3, I would say. And I'm right there with them. Denny Hamlin, Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell. I think it's those 3, and then I think there's a decent gap to everyone else.
Definitely Denny Hamlin and Kyle Larson. I would put Bell probably a tier below. Just based off the fact that that's kind of just how I perceive them. Haven't run enough numbers yet to actually say whether I'm confident that I'd put him in a tier below or not. But I would absolutely have Denny Hamlin and Kyle Larson as the top 2. So then it gets a little hairy. Is it Christopher Bell? Is it Ty Gibbs? Does somebody else get in the mix there? Obviously Christopher Bell's been very good at Bristol. Ty Gibbs has been very good at Bristol. So they're probably 3 and 4. Does anybody else crack that? Does Brad Keselowski crack that? I wouldn't put Truex 5th. I would not put Truex 5th. The guy's not been good at Bristol outside of one race. So really tough to say. Ryan Blaney could be up there. I think he's a little too far low in my eyes in terms of the odds. Chase Elliott might be a little too low in my eyes. Tyler Reddick might be a little too low in my eyes. I know he hasn't been amazing at Bristol, but he's getting better at Bristol. He's always been great at steep tracks in general. So, I think this is kind of a wide open Bristol, especially since we don't have all the best idea of what's going to happen with tire wear here. I mean, Tyler Reddick won Bristol in Xfinity, right? He's won.
Tyler Reddick.
Yeah, it's Tyler Reddick. He beat Chase Briscoe. He beat Christopher Bell in Xfinity. Joey Logano and Eric Jones were in that race. Joe Nemechek was in that race, not John Hunter Nemechek. Oh yeah, John Hunter Nemechek was in that race. He finished third. Austin Cindric was in that race. So, Tyler Reddick beat some names in that Bristol race in Xfinity. And he's always been great at the other steep tracks, Dover, Homestead, Darlington. So I think it possibly could just be more bad luck than anything that he hasn't been amazing at Bristol. And he still finished fourth his rookie year in Bristol. Don't forget that. Finished fourth his rookie year in a Richard Childress car at Bristol. And let's not count out a guy who's always been good at Bristol, Kyle fucking Busch.
Accurate, especially with the way that car's running lately. Like, I think I understand why Denny Hamlin's the heavy favorite this week, but I think there's good value this week elsewhere, especially in the top 10 market. Someone like a Chase Elliott is even money for a top 10. And that's another one that I think is a good value this week that I could see myself betting. Chase Elliott has a great record here at Bristol. Pull it up real quick. Single digit finish in 11th or better in 7 of the last 9 races here. Even money for a top 10 this week. Another guy looking at average running position in the next gen era at Concrete Bristol. Number 1, Christopher Bell. Number 2, Denny Hamlin. Number 3, Kyle Larson. Number 4 is John Hunter Nemechek, but one race, we can take him out. Number 4 after that, Chris Buescher. Number 5, Brad Keselowski. After that, Josh Berry, again, one race. Ty Gibbs after that. And then someone that I bet top 10 already this week, has not finished worse than 11th here in the next gen era. Top 10 odds at plus 400. Michael McDowell.
Yep.
Who is suddenly very good at high tire wear tracks as well. So I like Michael McDowell this week, but like I said, I am surprised. Another tidbit that you just mentioned. I can't believe Truex is that. I am shocked that sportsbooks have him where he's at. I didn't even notice that. Like, I think I might have overlooked that one.
Yeah, it might be a spot to see if you can fade him in some matchups or something. But again, it all comes down to the tire wear. If we have what we saw, I shouldn't even say where, but just the cording. If we have a repeat, then I like him a lot better. If we don't have a repeat of that, then I like him a lot worse, So it's just one of those things.
And we're not getting an extended practice session this week, as far as I know. So is it going to once again?
I think we have the 45-minute practice session. Let me pull that up. I'm pretty sure we have an extended practice session.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. 45-minute long practice session this week. So that'll help us. That makes me want to wait even more on bets, right? So, yep.
You mentioned matchups. Let's see if we can pull any matchups here quick. Oh, shit. All right, that's not working on my browsers.
Yeah, I see Kez minus 125 versus Truex at DK.
I know I saw some. There's none that stood out to me. I know that when I was browsing. Yeah, Kez is minus 160 versus Truex at 365. So definitely
minus 125 at DK if you're interested in that, because it's minus 160 at Bet 365.
Mm-hmm. Here's an interesting one that you typically wouldn't see. John Hunter Nemechek versus Austin Cindric, both minus 115 at Bet 365.
That's a wild one.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have an opinion on that until I run some numbers.
Right. But all of these that I'm on 365 right now, all of them that they're offering are essentially toss-ups in my eyes. Buescher versus Chase Elliott, Logano versus Reddick, Kyle Busch versus Briscoe, Larson versus Gibbs, Byron versus Blaney. These are all super close.
I would say Briscoe Busch is I would agree, more close to a toss-up. I don't think Keselowski Truex is really a toss-up unless we have the tire wear. So I'd agree with that line at 365, but Briscoe plus 120 is a little tempting.
Over Kyle Busch.
Yeah. Because I like them both equally. So I'll just go with the plus money. You know what I mean? If they're 50-50 then, and you're getting 40 something percent implied odds, 46, 47% implied odds, technically you're getting value there. But I don't have a strong opinion on who's going to be better out of those two. I haven't run numbers, so I haven't bet it. I'm just saying if I was to pick one without having run anything, that would probably be what I gravitate towards.
Especially pre-practice, like with all the unknowns and everything, like there's no, unless I'm seeing some major stuff, like we said, just not interested in betting right now. You and I are both on Reddick 25-1 though, and that's simply because outside of super speedways, if you get Reddick 25-1, you have to bet it. It's Tyler Reddick, fastest car all season, at a track that actually suits him well, despite him not having the results. So can't really pass that up.
Yeah.
You got me interested in some Kyle Busch though. Sitting 22-1 at Bet365. I don't hate that.
I
obviously
prefer, like a top 10 on him or something, plus 130, but who knows? It's Bristol. It's hard to take anybody confidently for a top 10 at shorter odds.
Yeah, that's why, like, Hamlin's -1 or -400. Give me the no.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you think about a guy like Josh Berry this race? Started second here in the spring, finished 12th.
It's been pretty good with tire wear. And again, I hate calling it tire wear because it's not really like it's not the classic kind of wear that we're talking about. Has been pretty good at managing tires. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I can't think of a good way to. Yeah, I'm struggling as well. See, we got this comment here. I don't know if you saw it. I like Ford in qualifying, but not much for the race. See, I still like him during the race. I think Ford is very good at the tire wear game, and I think they're going to be fine in both. I definitely like him in qualifying, though. I mean, you look at the qualifying results from the first Bristol race this year. 5 of the top 7 were Ford. Then we had Hamlin that started 3rd, and Chase Elliott starting 5th. So I'm curious to see what poll lines or poll odds look like this week. Maybe this could be like someone like a Michael McDowell week again.
Yeah,
for me,
could be. Josh Berry, Ty Gibbs, all interesting poll bets if those odds come up.
But yeah, this is definitely Bristol has a potential for some of these mid to lower tier guys to kind of surprise with top 10s, top 5s. Obviously, I like John Hunter Nemechek this week. I like a Michael McDowell this week. Who's kind of on your radar with those mid to lower tier guys that you're kind of looking at heading into Saturday night? All of them?
Yeah, exactly. Anybody. Obviously, Noah Gregson's always been good here. Carson Hocevar has been good at this track type. I always will bet 100% of the time Ricky Stenhouse Jr. top 10. Like I can almost guarantee that'll be one of my bets. I haven't bet anything like you said other than that little bit on Tyler Reddick 25-1. But John Hunter Nemechek, of course, definitely he's going to be your pick this week on 36 for 36. He's been good here. So yeah, pretty much anybody in that middle longer tier. I don't really see why we should be avoiding a ton of people. If this race gets chaotic, there's a lot of people in line. Hell, we saw Justin Haley and Kaz Grala almost running legit top 10 on just tire management and speed in the first Bristol race.
Yeah, I don't remember what happened to Haley, but I was just about to bring him up. I have his thing here. I remember that car was fast. It was actually fast at Bristol.
Kaz Grala was running inside the top 10 legitimately.
And don't forget, Justin Haley finished 12th here in the College car last year, or 2022. Sorry.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm curious. I know Haley's sitting out there at 10-1 for a top 10. Not quite long enough for me to bite there. I forgot the Kaz Grala thing though. I feel like if you can get him probably like 20 or longer, I might take a little shot there. If they bring back that similar speed. Now I don't know if he's out there at that, but if
he's 16 to 1s out there.
Mm-hmm.
It's not quite there, but I mean, it's weird. I could see if it's a tire race or a tire management race, I could see any of these guys really. It just depends on who has issues and who doesn't and who can manage it. The Fords were really good at managing it. We saw Keselowski, saw Haley, Kazgrala, Josh Berry, Ryan Preece finished 14th, which was, good for him. McDowell looked really good at managing it. Chris Buescher. So a lot of Fords did well at managing it. Ryan Blaney's never been great at tire management. He faded, and he's kind of the exception to the rule with Ford as far as managing tires. So yeah, could be interesting to back some Fords if this is a tire management race.
One guy that I wanted to talk about earlier and I forgot. Zane Smith has been on fire, relatively speaking.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious. He's sitting at 16 to 1 for a top 10. Qualified 15th here last time. And then I forget what happened. I think he wrecked out or something. Or he had like one of those that had he had an engine issue. I'm curious there. I like how Zane Smith's running ever since the news broke that he was losing his ride.
Yeah, I mean, has a second place finish in trucks at Bristol, has a win at Dover, third at Bristol earlier this year in trucks with a little bit of a lesser team, McNally, Hilgeman Racing. So I don't hate it. Obviously, like you said, been running much better. If we look from Nashville on, I mean, his results have improved dramatically. 3 top 7 finishes and 3 other top 17 finishes. When prior to that, he had just 2 top 17 finishes. One was 16th, one was 13th.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Spire overall is kind of getting to that level that we expected them to be at earlier in the season. It's just taken 3/4 of the way. But
for sure.
I also mentioned that because I still have him left in 36 for 36, and if I don't want to go John Hunter Nemechek, I feel like I could go Zane this week, but I'm going John Hunter Nemechek. Let's see here, but yeah, Zane's sitting at 16 to 1 for a top 10. That might be worth a little sprinkle as well. This is I think you have to like the underdogs here at Bristol. In addition to some of these favorites, just because of the potential. Ryan Preece is another guy, as much as I hate to say it, that finishes well here. 18th or better in his last 6 starts here, including a 14th this spring.
Yeah. Yep. And I mean, he runs this kind of track all the time in Wayland Modified.
Mm-hmm.
He's been running Bristol forever in Wayland. I mean, he has, God, I can't count how many wins he probably has at tracks similar to this in the Wayland Modified Tour. But the dude's just an absolute beast on that tour.
Yeah, it's going to be a weekend for sure. AJ Allmendinger's in the 16 again this weekend. We've seen him do well at high tire wear tracks and steep tracks. Let me see who else here. Who else do I like? I like everyone in the field. Like, not to win, but just to finish well. I think I like everybody.
Yep.
Except Daniel Hummert. Fuck that guy.
Yeah, fair enough. And Harrison Burton.
Right. What else you want? But Harrison Burton does have a 16th place finish to his credit here.
That's true. It's true.
First start with the Wood Brothers, he finished 16th.
AJ Allmendinger. Gotta love him here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he 7th 2 years ago, first next gen race. Legitimate 7th. Like, started 13th, finished 7th. That's a good race. Who else you want to talk about?
I don't know. I think we're ready for the picks to win and 36 for 36.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I'm one more guy. Obviously, we think Reddick could be underrated a bit here. What about Bubba Wallace? He has a good record here in the lower series. Hasn't quite broke through here in the Cup Series, but did finish 14th last season with a third place finish in the stage. Has qualified top 10 the last 2 races. I forget. I think the tires hit him earlier this year. He finished 29th, but he did finish 9th in stage 2. Any love for Bubba this week? Despite he's like a Reddick. Like his track record's not good here, but we know he can race well here.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, there's love for pretty much everybody. Do I think Bubba Wallace is going to lead and win? No. I don't think I would take him at like 60-1. But I could see myself getting there on like top 10 type bets and stuff.
Yeah. Absolutely. But yeah, let me pull up my spreadsheet here for picks to win. I forget who I even had last week.
I probably had Byron or something stupidly.
You did have Byron. I remember that. I remember because you went with both. You're like, I'm going shit. Okay. I had Christopher Bell. Oh, that was a nice little Jordan jinx, wasn't it?
Yep. That's
fucking
right.
lap 1 gets spun out. Yeah, and you had Byron. So update this here. All right. That brought my average. Well, actually, that was right at my average finish. So Bell finished 14th. My average finish for the year and my picks to win are 14.1, and yours is 10.21. And by the way, you're supposed to be going first this week.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot about that.
Am.
I thought earlier you said I was going first.
No, you went first for stacking Dennys. I mean for stacking Dennys.
Yep.
What about it?
There
Since
we go.
I was going first.
All right.
Well, look, I'm screwed. I don't recommend this pick. I don't recommend my strategy. If this was a normal contest, if you're in a big field of 36 for 36, go with your best plays. But I'm in a 2-person field, and I need a comeback. That's my only hope here. So I'm going to take A.J. Allmendinger.
Interesting. So you're playing the game. You're not taking Allmendinger at the Roval.
I was 100% planning on taking him at the Roval, but in a 2-person field when I'm down 80 points, I have to do something different.
You can't go equal.
This is only game theory at this point. It's not recommended plays. It's game theory.
Nice. I'm surprised you didn't. Yeah. I mean, this isn't the place to go big name and hope for max points. This is hope to get a top 10 out of A.J. Allmendinger and make the points that way. Yeah. I like that strategy. I get it. I also understand the position you're in.
Yeah, exactly. And here's the thing, like at the Roval, he's not stage point racing. He's going to flip the stages. So he's not going to really claim stage points at the Roval probably. And he's probably not going to claim them here. So it really just comes down to finishing position. And if something happens with the Roval, all of a sudden I gain a bunch of Allmendinger value.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, we just saw it happen at Watkins Glen.
Yep.
Who's to say Allmendinger? I don't know what he did or if he did anything to kill that car at Watkins Glen, but it's definitely possible. So yeah, you got Allmendinger for Bristol this weekend. I think everybody knows it. If anybody's been paying attention this whole episode, I'm going John Hunter Nemechek. Reasoning behind that, in addition to him legitimately having a great car here in the first race this year, he's actually been very good at Bristol, just overall. He ran here with Front Row Motorsports in 2020, and he finished 13th and 20th. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to go John Hunter Nemechek. Finished top 5 in both stages earlier this year, despite starting 26th. So I'm gonna hope that they bring that same car back and luck strikes twice. What was the last time I did it? Darlington? That I used the same strategy and Briscoe ended up in victory lane. So hell, maybe John Hunter Nemechek wins this race. That would be amazing.
He's okay. Here's his Xfinity results: 3rd, 3rd, 5th, and then you have to go back to his rookie Xfinity season and finish 13th. So top 5s in all the Xfinity races. He's a 3rd in the Truck Series, a 3rd in the Truck Series where he led the most laps, a 3rd in the Truck Series, a 3rd in the Truck Series. Mm-hmm. He has 4 third-place finishes at Bristol in the Truck Series. That's pretty crazy. So yeah, it's a good track for him.
Yeah, I was shocked. So with it being NFL season, obviously sports books aren't putting that much time and effort into NASCAR as they are. And typically this results in us getting some better lines or lines not moving as quickly. I was hoping this week that they'd be sleeping on John Hunter Nemechek. He's sitting there 5-1 for a top 10. I'm not touching that. As much as I do think he has the upside. But that's someone though, they do not qualify well. So someone to keep an eye on post qualifying odds when those come out. For a top 10, definitely look at John Hunter Nemechek.
And when we look at the whole, cording thing, the 2 best manufacturers at it were Ford and Toyota as far as managing the cording earlier this year. So that's something to keep in mind. Yeah, Alex Bowman finished 4th. Kyle Larson finished 5th. Chase Elliott finished 8th. But the next Chevy after that was Ross Chastain in 15th. So just something to keep in mind. It did seem like Toyota and Ford were the better manufacturers at managing the cording.
Yep. All right. So you got Allmendinger. I got John Hunter Nemechek. I have 726. You have 644. So you're down 82 points. See if you can make some up this week. John Hunter Nemechek also prone to wrecking this season. So wouldn't be surprised if you get some points there. Who's your pick to win, by the way?
We didn't do picks to win yet, did we?
Nope.
Let's see. We went 36 for 36 first. Picks to win. Let's go back-to-back Busher.
I like it. I was actually going to go with that. Busher was going to be my pick.
That's funny.
I'm for the drama because my picks to win have absolutely shit the bed all season. Like I said, my average finish this year is 14.1 on my picks to win. For the drama, I'm going to go with the favorite. I'm going to go Denny Hamlin.
Oh, baby, for the jinx.
For the jinx, I'm going Denny Hamlin to win this race. And I want to see it. I want to see a lap 1, the 11 into the wall.
Oh no!
Oh, that would be just for the stupid Atlanta strategy.
That's just I messaged you on lap 1 of Watkins Glen, and I just laughed. I think it was just like ha 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 Hamlin or something. I sent you.
Yep. So, yeah, I think Busher's another one of those. Could definitely, and he went back to back last year, didn't he? He hit Richmond and
he's
Michigan, I think.
Yep, Richmond and Michigan. Finished 4th at Bristol that year, which is in that same. This is like the Busher time of year, man. He just wins and right around the playoffs, whether it's just before or just after the playoffs start. He just seems to put together his hottest streak. Almost year in and year out at this time of year. If we look even in 2022, you got to win at Bristol at this time of year, right? Finished 3rd at Richmond in that race in 2022, right before the playoffs started. He just seems to always get super hot right at this time of year. So going Chris.
Yeah. Win. You look at the last 5 races. Obviously, he won Watkins Glen. He had an issue at Atlanta where he got caught up in that wreck. But before that, 6th at Darlington, 10th at Daytona, 6th at Michigan. Yeah, Busher's going to be strong this weekend, for sure. I will say this: he just needs to figure out qualifying.
Yep,
that's his biggest thing, and I think that's the biggest reason he didn't make the playoffs this year, because he didn't get many stage points because he doesn't qualify well. His average start this year is 17.
Wow,
17.3. So yeah, if he can figure that out, I think he can definitely win more than he is.
Like look at Busher versus Bubba Wallace. 81 stage points for Buescher, 120 for Bubba Wallace. If
Mhm.
Buescher had 41 more stage points, right, he's in the playoffs right now. Or 39 more stage points, he's in the playoffs right now.
Mhm.
So just one of those things where, yeah, he hasn't been getting the stage finishes. And let's not forget, we talked about the playoff standings. Let's not forget the battle for 17th is pretty important. I think there might still be that $1 million bonus for 17th place, first in the points out of the non-playoff drivers. And Ross Chastain leads Chris Buescher by 8 points right now in that, and then is 42 ahead of Bubba Wallace.
Mm-hmm. And then Kyle Busch is 115 back. So.
Yeah.
I will note Buescher, for anybody, I know there's a few people out there that have Buescher over Kyle Busch in the standings, so Buescher not making the playoffs hurt that quite a bit. But Buescher now has a very comfortable 107-point gap on Busch with 8 races remaining. So,
yeah,
still feeling good about that bet. Would definitely be feeling a lot better if Buescher would have made the playoffs, but it's all good. It's all good. But yeah, got anything else before we head into Bristol weekend and then cut this field down to 12?
No, I sure don't. It's light betting week until I see how the tires, manage.
Mm-hmm. And even then, I think my full recommendation is going to be just light betting overall at Bristol.
Yep.
Even if, practice and qualifying show a bunch of stuff. So, all right. That's going to wrap us up. Pretty quick episode this week.
Sure was.
Good luck to everybody. Thanks to everybody that tuned in live. Looks like there's quite a few viewers out there watching with us. Always nice when we can do these little live streams. And it worked out this week. Recording on Wednesday and everything. So good luck this weekend at Bristol. And we'll be back next week to kick off the round of 12, talking about Kansas, right?
Yes.
Kansas. Yep. All right. Good luck, you guys.
See ya.
See ya.